Got it. Wonderful, wonderful. Hi, everybody. Look at all these faces online. I love to see it. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Kalia Garrido, and I head up strategic marketing and events here at Hike 2. For those of you who don't know about us yet, Hike 2 is an IP-enabled boutique services firm, and we specialize in the legal sector. Our primary focus is on providing innovative solutions in legal, risk, and compliance for highly regulated industries. And in addition to the technology services that we provide, we also host legal ops conversations about a variety of topics that are relevant to both corporate legal ops and large law firms. For a full list of our upcoming events, or to learn more about our legal operations innovation practice, we welcome you to visit us at hike2.com. You can see our newly redesigned website that we're very excited about. So just a little bit of housekeeping. This, of course, is a webinar, so your cameras and microphones are off. We welcome questions and comments in both the chat and the Q&A. And if you prefer to wait for a little more time at the end, we will reserve a few moments for a formal Q&A at that point. We are also, of course, going to be recording today's session, and we'll share it back out with everyone. So please stay tuned for a follow-up after this. We have some amazing legal industry veterans online with us today, and I will start by introducing just one of them, Mike Anastasides. Mike is the Director of Legal Solutions here at Hike 2, and Mike, I would pass the mic to you.
Thank you, Kalia. Great intro, and thanks everyone for joining. Mike Anastasides. I'm based in Boston, Massachusetts, as Kalia indicated, a director with Hike 2. And, in my role, I'm meeting with, talking to 3 or 4 different law firms and legal entities every week. Love being able to assist and really help firms and legal departments in their digital transformation, sort of where firms are going. It's just really, to me, been really interesting over the last 2 or 3 years to see just the investment in technology and, of course, artificial intelligence in the legal industry. And prior to Hike 2, I was at Salesforce for about 10 years. In the last few years at Salesforce, really focusing in legal, helped to stand up the legal industry vertical while at Salesforce. And then prior to Salesforce, I was at a law firm in Boston, Massachusetts for about 6 years. I will verbally pass this over to Liz for her introduction.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Kelly. I'm happy to be here today. I'm Liz Lockett, Chief Business Development and Marketing Officer for Buchanan Ingersoll. I have been with the firm since September. It's been a fast and furious 6.5 months, but all good stuff. We actually most recently won the BTI award for leading edge law firms, one of top 33. And the reason why is we partner with Hike 2 on a lot of our innovation, and we've done some pretty amazing and cool things the last year and a half or so with Scott Angelo at the helm and the great partnership with Hike 2. I'm going to be talking a little bit today about marketing tactics. We'll also be throwing in some business development, but most importantly, sort of bridging innovation with marketing and BD and how we are utilizing AI and innovation to push our efforts forward in that regard as well. So thank you for having me.
And Christina, over to you.
Thanks, Mike. I'm Christina Natali. I am a recent addition to Hike 2. It's actually going by a lot faster. It's been over a month now. I come from 9 years of active law practice and law practice management experience. I litigated at a federal level in the mass tort world for about 6 years. I went to the United States Department of Justice, where I ran large volume ESI for the EPA. And then I came back to law practice life as an operations manager, where I built and administered various case management platforms, including Fileline and other Salesforce-based platforms, where I built automations, workflows, all kinds of good things that helped push our both marketing and litigation efforts forward. And I'm excited to add some legal color to our discussion of how we can grow business and also standardize data that helps our practice as well. And with that, I will pass it along to my colleague, Morgan.
Hi, everyone. My name is Morgan Llewellyn. I have about 20 years experience in the data and AI space, growing AI teams, data teams helped a couple of consulting firms grow them and exit them, and worked in SaaS as well, where I've led larger data teams and AI teams. I'm really happy to be here today. We work with a number of different law firms in helping understand, act on, and really capture the value of the AI opportunity that we're seeing in the industry today, and really help organizations understand how what is happening in AI is applicable to their business, and how it's transforming and really disrupting some of not just the tech stack, but also the business itself. So really happy to be here and share some of the insights that we've gathered through a number of our interactions with the legal community broadly and with our customers specifically. So thank you so much for having me here today.
Thanks, Morgan. Thanks, everyone. In terms of an agenda, you're going to hear from myself, Morgan, and Christina. Those first few bullets will give you a little bit of perspective on the marketing, from a legal perspective, from the attorney's perspective with Christina, for sure. And then we'll, again, back to Morgan to talk us through some of the artificial intelligence stuff he's seeing in the legal industry from a marketing perspective. But really, the meat of this, the crux of this, is going to be a Q&A with Liz towards the end. So want to maybe just sort of re-ask to the team, to everyone out there today. If you do have questions, please, you can go ahead in the Q&A functionality of Zoom and fire your questions, whether it's for Liz or for anyone on the panel. We'd love to answer them and love to engage. Let's keep this as interactive as possible. Kalia gave a fabulous introduction for Hike 2. Let me just say, maybe piling on a little bit here, as Kalia indicated, we do provide advisory services solutions with a focus in legal. So that's corporate legal departments, that's law firms. I mentioned digital transformation in my introduction. I think of us as a firm that helps organizations that are and legal organizations specifically looking to digitally transform, really make the most out of what they have from a technical perspective now, but then also help them make decisions into the future and help them deploy those technical solutions and really sort of make the most out of what they're going to be doing in the future. Morgan spoke for a few minutes and is going to speak again. We've got this a dedicated and sort of growing data and artificial intelligence practice. And Morgan is the chief of that, and you'll hear from him in a little while. We really consider ourselves to be sort of, a safe choice, a logical choice when it comes to those in the legal industry. And when it comes to marketing trends in legal, I don't think a lot of this will be just news to people in this meeting. I will kind of hone in on a couple of areas here. We talk about when we're talking to firms, we're talking about, and specifically from a marketing perspective, that's brand awareness, it's client satisfaction, it's revenue growth, right? It's it's gaining new clients, it's helping firms cross-sell and find new business, with current clients. And some of the trends, again, here, firms looking to use automation when it comes to their marketing efforts. And again, that's client interactions, that's managing relationships, nurturing leads, data analytics in the middle, right? So, firms using data analytics tools, techniques to really measure the effectiveness of their marketing campaigns, tracking return on investment. And then lastly, it's artificial intelligence. Right. I mean, this is, again, won't be news to anyone here. But I feel like this really presents just such incredible opportunities for firms, for corporate legal departments to innovate, to really deliver, superior legal services. It's a way to drive business growth, a way to, enhance decision making on the marketing side and the business development side, and really, firms and legal departments. I think, and what we're starting to see is that they're starting to use AI to improve client experience, employee experience, so many places where artificial intelligence is starting to impact marketing, impact business development. I won't give all of it away because, the team will talk more about it. And Morgan certainly is going to talk a little bit more about artificial intelligence in a minute or so. But before we get to Morgan, I do want to ask Christina to give the attorney view when it comes to marketing?
Thanks, Mike. I think something that we come across a lot is lack of lawyer adoption and really even lawyer interest or understanding of what data is doing for the law practice and for the business as a whole. And so we're going to talk a lot today, and I think especially Liz and Morgan, about some use cases that for sure are marketing and business development driven, but how we can unsilo data and how firms should be unsiloing data so they can use it throughout the life cycle of those cases that come in from various campaigns and events, and really understand the ROI for their firm and other KPIs that the business is interested in outside of the true legal practice. So we're going to be talking about, how firms can enhance their visibility, bring in new clients, and grow the business. And there's a lot of ways that they can do that using AI, which again, Morgan will talk about some of those use cases, but particularly in generating content, in targeting the correct audience for that content, and then again, in bringing the data that comes from those campaigns into useful data analytics within the firm's system so that it can be used again for future campaign planning, but also for continued communication with the targets of that marketing campaign, as well as existing clients once they've been retained. And so one of those options, one of those considerations is brand development. And so again, that's sending out consistent messaging to build that recognition and credibility of your brand. People are just being bombarded by communications from everywhere. And I know, again, in the mass tort practice, everyone jokes about the commercials that you see of, if you or a loved one, but really in any sort of law practice, and especially at a higher corporate level, that branding really needs to be very targeted and intelligent. And so a lot of this, it takes away some of that work. And as Morgan will talk about, leaves room for human review so that we know what we're fine-tuning the message that we're sending out to various levels of clients for different practice groups and sectors across the business. Another key piece of that is thought leadership, which does go back to that consistent messaging, but also producing artifacts and speaking at conferences and digital marketing channels that engage, again, current and additional clients. So the more that you're getting out there and taking advantage of these opportunities is obviously going to help with that growth as well. The final point, again, is that increased process efficiency, which is, I think, again, as lawyers, we don't always think about, but the business sure is. And so thinking about how the legal component can bring additional true business value. And so even if it's not generating income, which it really should be, but increased process efficiency via data standardization and workflow automation, and again, moving toward what Morgan is going to be talking to you about, the less times that we're touching a file before someone at a high level associate or partner is finishing up the work and sending it on to the client facing part of the process. The fewer times that we're having to go back into a legacy system to review the data from that campaign before we look at the data in our case management system, the more that we are making those processes efficient and taking away kind of meaningless or repetitive work from attorneys and even from our staff, the better your return on investment is going to be for your overall business.
Yeah, hi everyone. So again, my name is Morgan Llewellyn, about 20 years experience in this space. Actually, I started out as a data scientist for Salesforce on the Marketing Cloud. So marketing speaks near and dear to my heart. What I want to do is take a step back and really talk about how artificial intelligence is impacting what and how marketers are going to have to communicate in the legal space in particular. I think this really hits home for legal. And the reason why is if we kind of look at these two graphics, here's really what we're seeing with AI and Gen AI in particular, the impact of AI on legal services. So what we've seen and what we hear other firms talking about is there seems to be some consensus on where this is going in regards to how is this going to impact firms, how is it going to impact their operations, where AI is going to impact the number of hours being produced, and it's going to reduce the number of hours through some of the things that Christina just talked about, automation primarily, right? So being able to automate tasks is going to be a way in which AI is going to impact the legal industry. However, that's not necessarily an all bad story, because the quality of that work, as studies have started to show, the quality of the work being done by lawyers, being done by junior attorneys, that is on the rise as they're using some of these new tools and some of these new capabilities. And so what we see in the legal industry is, yes, a reduction in hours, but an increase in the level of quality. And so firms that are leveraging Gen AI, what we anticipate is going to happen is they're going to be able to charge a higher hourly rate. And so it's not necessarily all bad news, and there are going to be winners in this scenario. That same story of less hours, less time, better quality, doesn't just apply to the legal firm, right, or the firm as a whole. It also applies to marketers in particular, right? The cost of content creation is going down. You can create better, hyper-personalized content a lot quicker, almost at an automated scale in many cases. And the quality of that marketing is going up. And so just as we're seeing an impact on the hours and the quality and the firm as a whole, we're also seeing that hyper specific to marketing as well. And so what does this mean to the marketing function, the marketing team at your organization? What that means is you're going to have to understand, how is your firm using AI? What is, for lack of a better term, the AI strategy? How is that going to deliver value to your customer? But you're also going to have to speak to, how is it safe, secure, and acceptable for use, and how it's being used for the firm. So you're going to have to be able to speak to, what is the value? How are you driving efficiency in providing better quality and greater value to your customer? But you're also at the same level going to have to walk that line of, why is it appropriate? Why are you being safe and secure with their data? And so that's going to be something new that a lot of legal firms are going to have to learn to communicate, is what are they doing on the AI side? How are partners using it? And also, how is it secure? And that's just going to be part of the message, because ultimately the message is going to be, we're giving a higher quality product, and this is how we're doing it. Next slide, please. And then, so we've been working, with a number of firms going across the country, in an AI roadshow is what we've called it, specific to legal. So we've been, on the West Coast, the East Coast, the Midwest, the South, and we've been in a number of places, and we've seen a number of questions, specifically around AI. And here are some of the common questions that we're getting. And so I just wanted to share that with the individuals on the call today. One of the big questions that we get is, what is the impact on revenue, which we just talked about, right? Firms embracing Gen AI, they're going to see a decrease in the hours, but it's going to be offset by an increase in that hourly bill rate. And again, the key concept here is, it's driven, you're going to be able to support that higher bill rate by quality. So another question we get a lot is, should I build or should I buy my Gen AI? And the answer we're seeing is, it's actually sort of both, right? So we're seeing firms buying platforms and solutions, upgrading to Gen AI, but then they're customizing that into their workflow. They're customizing it for their organization. And we see this customization as really key, because it's the differentiator. If everyone has access to the same solution, if everyone has access to the same quote unquote Gen AI product, then there's a homogenization. So how are you going to differentiate? How are you going to provide that greater quality? It's going to be through a level of adoption and customization. And so we're really seeing that both approaches as the winning strategy. The one kind of, thing I would encourage folks to do on the call, if you haven't already do it, purposeful participation is the thing that your peers are doing when those peers are doing things in Gen AI and they're doing it well. And so starting with purposeful participation, this isn't theoretical. It's not something where you're going to learn by just reading. Hands-on, experience with some of these tools, speaking with experts. These are the things that folks are doing who are really excelling and leading the pack when it comes to applications of Gen AI. And then the last thing I want to talk about, is really the common use cases. And for marketing, if I think about, 10, 15 years ago, when I was doing marketing, and data science for marketing, some of the things that we're able to do today, think about hyper personalized, content creation. So writing an email, writing a subject line that is, specific to that individual. That's really cool. But some of the other things that Gen AI is allowing us to do is take all that information that a person has interacted with in the past, right? What emails did they open? What things did they, what things did they click on? What has that, organization, who have they interacted with in our firm? Being able to take all that information, right, summarize it, and then feed it into a content generation. Like, that is just amazing. I mean, that is, to me, mind blowing. If you told me, 15 years ago that was possible, I would have said, yeah, that sounds like a dream. But that dream is reality today. And that's what we're seeing really great firms doing, is they're really separating the ability of Gen AI to be able to aggregate and understand what is the valuable information that's really going to have an impact on the call to action, take that information and wrap it into hyper-personalized content. And we see, just that trend continuing, in the future, where you're going to have platforms that people are using for automation, and that automation, that automated communication, is going to suck in information, summarize information to give the best hyper-personalized content that's really relevant to the person. And again, I think, just like we talked about with lawyers and having a better quality product, and that's what's going to separate them and allow them to charge a higher billing rate, we're going to see the same thing on the marketing side. The cost of content generation is going to zero. And so it's almost like we could be in this world of spam, right? Remember email spam? Well, the great marketers are going to be the ones who provide a higher quality product. It's not about volume, it's about quality. And so the great marketers are going to be able to aggregate that information, make it hyper personalized and specific to what that person really wants, what that firm really wants, what that organization wants. And those are going to be the marketers who are successful. Those are going to be the marketers who are really able to transform their organization. And so thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate it. And with that, I'll pass it on to Mike and Liz.
Morgan, thank you for coming. The phrase hyper personalized content, I just, that is such a, I think, impactful phrase. I've heard you say it before, but it really resonates, at least with me, and I know with a lot of people that we work with. So that was great. And then Christina, I heard you talk a lot about brand awareness and such. So really, sort of, I think, a good segue over to Liz for some questions. So Liz, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Oh, here we go. Let's do it. All right. Well, thank you really again for being here and for answering the questions. I'll start off with a question around brand awareness, if that's okay. Liz, tell the team, tell the audience, what are some of the best ways to increase brand awareness with clients and potential clients?
Well, not to pick on Morgan, but the hyper-personalization one really rang true with me. I think I wrote it down twice in case I forgot it the first time, but I love that phrase. And I think that first of all, you've got to know your sweet spot. A lot of firms do strategic plans every 3 to 5 years. And there's always different trends on how people focus on how firms are going to grow or what their strategy is going to be. But with Buchanan, most recently, we launched ours in March. We really figured out pretty quickly that 40% of our revenue comes from 4 main industry groups. So when I say sweet spot, I mean figuring out who your clients are, how you butter your bread, as they say, and focusing on those. Once you've done that, it's the hyper-personalization. It's finding the differentiator, creating a brand that's going to actually resonate and speak to them. We're actually about to do sort of our industry group 2.0, where we're going even more focused. So for instance, we had energy as an industry, and now it's going to be renewables, because we know there's a real opportunity there with our particular skill set in our firm. And then it's a lot of the things that we're going to continue to talk about in the next 15, 20 minutes, but it's repetition, differentiation. How are you putting that out in a number of different channels? And the other thing that I don't ever want people to forget is also the internal education. You can put the strategic plan out, but everybody from the guy helping you with your mail to the managing partner of the firm should know what your sweet spot is, what your quote firm elevator pitch is, what your strategy is, and be able to articulate it, because it's part of all the marketing. I think the internal marketing and brand awareness is just as important as the external. So I think it's sort of twofold. And it's, you know, as far as channels, we'll talk about with this more, but there's events, webinars, advertising, PR. I mean, there's all social media. There's a number of different ways to do it. It's just making sure you penetrate in a consistent fashion that message across all of those opportunities.
I think you started to get into this a little bit, Liz, but maybe talk about some of the more important metrics that you track as Chief Business Development Officer.
Yeah, obviously, I mean, whenever I take a job like this, the number one thing is driving revenue. I mean, at the end of the day, the firms want to grow, and the more revenue you have, the more, you know, the better talent you can keep and retain, the more opportunity you have for innovation and to work with guys like you. So I think client-driven revenue is the first thing that I always will measure. The second, so it's increasing current revenue from current clients. The second one would be revenue from new clients, which, as we know, is harder to get. Another thing I like to call is the stickiness. So if we've got our top 15 clients, you know, how many different types of legal services are we providing to them? Is this just one big litigation client, or is it somebody where we're doing their corporate work, their litigation, their IP, their tax? So I call it the stickiness. A term that we use in my industry a lot is the Net Promoter Score with client feedback interviews. At the higher that is, meaning that they more often they would be willing to refer you to somebody else. So if one in-house GC is like, Buchanan is an amazing firm and I'm going to give them a 10 because I'd refer them any day of the week to my neighbor who's doing this, that's the Net Promoter Score. We track that as well. And then this is the tough one, but you know, ROI on all marketing and business development dollars. We spend a lot of money, proportionately given our legal spend, and our marketing BD budgets are pretty high compared to other types of corporations. So we want to make sure that we're really, you know, leveraging and capitalizing upon those dollars, which I'm hoping to use AI for, by the way, pretty soon to help me with that.
Well, you talked about a couple of things there, maybe for the next question, you know, measuring revenue, return on investment, and I'm sure these factor into this, you know, this answer, I guess, this question, but what are some of those key factors for a successful marketing campaign? I mean, I guess maybe besides return on investment, how do you measure the effectiveness?
Yeah, I mean, and I just to put this out there first, I find business development is different than marketing. Marketing is actually much easier to measure. So I'll focus on that since that's the question that was put forth. But obviously, it's a multifaceted approach. So the various ways, we actually had a pretty amazing woman in our department in-house who built a marketing dashboard. And it tracks all of our website metrics, which I know a lot of people do through Google, whatever things. But this is actually, it delves much more deeper. It's the how many thought leadership pieces we're putting out, how many clicks, how many times it's being forwarded, how many people are actually opening up an email or an article or a blog, the amount of time that they've been on it, are they signing up for new things? That's just sort of the online presence that's related to our website. Then you've got event attendance, the number of times that they repeat those things. Are we getting a business development opportunity after that, which is the real goal, obviously. Media mentions. So we're putting out PR articles, how many times it is being opened, how many times are we being re-referenced to Law 360, JD Supra, whatever the platform might be, to repeat some of that information. Ad clicks, we actually do paid LinkedIn ads on certain things to promote our specific areas that we're trying to, like our industry groups, or a particular hot and upcoming thing like corporate transparency or advanced tech or something like that. Sharing invitations, this is a big one. I was actually just meeting with a vendor yesterday on how to track how much a contact is penetrated throughout the firm, and it's kind of the strength of the relationship. And then if they are forwarding things outside to other people in their company or other people, that's just another sort of net promoter indicator. And then any kind of client customized interaction, whether it's signing up for a blog or a new newsletter or an event, webinar, what have you, CLE, anything like that. It's another way to track it.
You talked about artificial intelligence at the end of the last question. I'd love to hear your thoughts on, you know, the role that you think artificial intelligence will play in legal business development.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I want to go back to something that you had said earlier. The digital literacy is huge. I mean, we have, our firm has done a fantastic job of giving everybody the ability to use Artifacts, which is our generative AI platform, as you all know. And it's very cool. So now anybody can sort of play with it, use it, and the more familiar with them become with it, the more easier it is to understand how our in-house counsel, our clients, as well as each other can really capitalize upon it. I think for marketing and business development, it's a huge differentiator right now. People that are embracing it and trying to use it to move our efforts forward. To me, there's sort of four main categories. There's content creation, task automation, analyzing data, and then the hyper-personalization, as it was said before. For content creation, I mean, anything from pitches, thought leadership, online content, responding to RFPs. By the way, the AI question comes up in RFPs now all the time. In-house counsel wants to know that you're using it and expect you to use it to be prepared to answer it. I think the next iteration of that's going to be data automation and analysis. So they're going to take the AI one step further. And how are you guys using this? Automating tasks. Again, how are we pushing that content out to clients? Are we updating our CRM systems? How are we updating budgets and budget requests so that we can track ROI? Or how are we updating simple things like website bios, which, believe it or not, is a task to get asked probably every day. Can you add this to I mean, that should be an automated thing. And then pushing content out on any kind of social media platform or our own website, it can also be automated. As far as analyzing data, I mentioned this before, but our ROI, CRM analysis, meaning figuring out relationship strengths across the firm where we've got opportunities. I know this is critical with succession planning as well as potential acquisitions. So if you've got a partner that's about to retire, you want to make sure you know who they know and how are we dealing with that and making sure that we keep that, institutional relationship. And then there's a lot of M&A activity going on with law firms. There always will be. And so figuring out who knows whom across those two platforms is also critical. And then the personalization is, and I love this quote from, I can't recall which one of you said it, but improving the client experience. That's really at the end of the day what we're after. And I think we can really use AI to tailorize the client communications, tailor the marketing campaigns, make sure that they're uber targeted to things that are going to be relevant to them and not just legal solutions, but business solutions and understanding their industries at a macro level.
Yeah, the relevancy is huge. Understanding the industry, obviously, critical. Oftentimes this comes down to cost too, though, right? So,
right.
Are there cost-effective, tactics to enhance brand visibility that you used at Buchanan, or maybe even in previous roles, Liz?
Sure. I mean, I think a lot of the things we just touched upon are free. You've got public relations, as long as you've got a great person working on that. And again, AI can enhance that content and how you push it out. It takes time, but submitting the awards, the directories, the chambers, this kind of stuff will elevate your brand. Some of them have become pay to play, which I'm not a big proponent of, but there's a lot of them that you can still get quite a bit of traction just by responding to those. Social media is free. Doing webinars is the most cost-effective way to put content out there and to get your clients engaged. That was one of the small silver linings of COVID, is we realized real quickly we can do a lot of this virtually and not spend the massive amounts of money on event space and food and all that kind of thing, and still get the same messaging and connection across if leveraged appropriately. So I think, touching on anything that's sort of a virtual or social media platform is a way to get stock content and develop relationships without spending a lot of money.
Yeah, and well, maybe if you could even add to that a little bit. Talk about the role of digital marketing, digital business development in legal. You started to talk about COVID, changing the game, but maybe add to that.
Yeah, it's a game changer. Everything's got to be available virtually now and quickly. There is sort of this funny sort of race to the finish, whoever gets the first thought leadership thing out, and a lot of law firms compete for that. So I think that personalization is where it becomes critical, because we can all send out the same legal update. But if it's got a line or two at the beginning of, this is how it's going to affect you, call me if you need assistance, or let me know how I can help, and these are the three things you should be looking at, and then you attach the blog or the update or whatever. So I think that's one way where digital marketing can be incredibly powerful if tailored appropriately. The other thing is, and I can say this now that I'm going to be the big 5-0 this year, is the in-house counsel are getting younger. They're a lot more digitally adept than they used to be. And I think that law firms are having to really change sort of their approach as we continue to evolve and as information and technology and innovation become more prevalent in our world. So I think that the digital marketing is going to continue to take off and be a huge, forefront for us.
Well, we're going to ask you to put on your, maybe get your crystal ball out, Liz, and try to predict the future. Good. You've touched on this. Maybe just touch on it a little bit more. How the landscape of legal marketing has changed in the last few years, but then perhaps more importantly for this question, the crystal ball question. What trends do you see, or maybe predict in the future?
Yeah, I mean, right now the competition is getting more and more fierce among sort of the top AmLaw 200 firms, as well as top 350, however you want to put it. We're starting to have to compete with boutique firms, particularly for commoditized work. You've got foreign call centers now handling legal matters outside of the United States that we're competing with. The big four and the accounting firms are not going to miss out on an opportunity. A lot of them are building out their legal arm. So it's another element of competition we've got to deal with. The other thing is that I feel like there's this pressure right now, and I talked a little bit about the M&A activity earlier, but bigger is better. I feel like there's a pressure among the AmLaw 200, 250 that there's a critical mass that we've got to get to in order to be competitive and to stay relevant. So that's only going to make it more fierce, the M&A activity, the lateral acquisitions, the people switching jobs, that kind of thing. And as far as the landscape of legal marketing changed, I mean, we've touched about it or not, innovation is going to be huge. And the firms that are willing to embrace it and invest in it and then leverage and capitalize upon it, I think are still going to have that leg above, despite the quote size or the competition we have from some of these other types of work that I mentioned earlier, or types of firms I mentioned earlier.
Kalia, are there any questions out there in the Q&A? I have got one more for you, Liz. But before I tee that one up, Kalia, I don't know if anyone has produced any questions.
Yep. No, we don't have any coming through just yet. Go for it, Mike.
I'm gonna tee up my last one then, Liz. And
I'm sorry I talked so fast.
No, hey, this is great. And but it's look, again, it's important information. I feel like, because of your role and because of your experience, I just think it's so important for people to hear. The last question will be around strategy, and you talked about being able to compete with boutique firms, being able to firms being able to compete with the big four. Maybe talk a little bit about a strategy for developing a firm marketing, I guess, that aligns more with, that really aligns with firm business goals and firm business objectives.
Yeah, and I think this is where it's the part that I love, because I've been doing this for 26 years. So I've been through a number of different strategic plans, and none of them were the same. It depends on what the firm wants to be and how leadership is driving that forward. And I think that the firms that are most successful really understand that. And they understand where their strengths are, and they're going to capitalize upon it. I feel like all business goals are going to lead to growth at some level. It just depends on what does that mean to you. Is it the growth in your footprint? Is it growth in revenue? Is it profitability per partners? Is it retention and sort of job happiness and fulfillment? And the way to do that is a number of different ways. It can be like capitalizing upon specific client types. Maybe it's an industry or sector. Maybe it's geography. It could be new areas of expertise that are up and coming, like advanced tech and AI. And then figuring out what you want to be known for and where you want to be in 5 to 7 years. I mean, and that's a place where you really got to dig deep, because you've got a board from anywhere from 8 to 15 members that are sort of being the mindset of all the shareholders and partners at that firm. So I think it's having strong leadership, making sure that the business goals align with the culture and the strategy and where the majority of the partners and shareholders want to be a part of and to get on board. And then, giving everybody the right tools and putting together a plan that's really going to be impactful. But at the end of the day, I find most of them, and it's funny because clients have the same thing. I've done 300 or 400 client interviews in my life, and they all have very similar goals. It's growth as well. It's because growth is going to create the revenue and the market share that's going to give us longevity in the long run. So I think that was a very broad answer, but it depends on the firm and the strategy. But at the end of the day, I think growth is always going to line up with the business goals and objectives.
Liz, thank you. We are right on time, team. Great job to
Yay.
everyone, crisply presenting, answering questions. We're landing the plane on time, which is fantastic news. I did want to throw out to the team or the people and during today's meeting that, of course, this is a pre-LMA webinar, getting you excited about LMA next week. We're excited. We'll be there next week. We would love for any of you and all of you to stop by our booth to have conversations with us. Come meet us in person. Come have conversations though in all sincerity and you know, continue this conversation around marketing, around artificial intelligence. I'll be following up with each of you after today's session. We'd take this even further. Would love to set up 15-30 minutes with you while we are out in San Diego to have a deeper conversation around any of these questions. So look for that email and you'll see that for me sometime in the next 24 hours. I do truly appreciate everyone joining today. The panelists, thank you. Everyone in the audience, thank you. We'll see many of you, hopefully all of you, out in San Diego, sunny and beautiful San Diego next week. Thank you all. Have a great rest of the week.
Yes, bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.